Hi everyone, this is Denise with Liquid Color, and today we are going to be taking a look at the MaimeriBlu Watercolors. Now these were sent to me by one of our viewers and patrons that you've heard me mention before, Victor, who sent a nice selection of the MaimeriBlu paints to look at today. We're going to be taking a look at 11 colors. There's one in here that's a Daniel Smith color that won't be included in this review, but there's a nice selection of yellows, reds, blues, and earth tones, as well as this really unique violet color. Now this is a company that I don't know a ton about, although I have researched for this video, but a lot of people I don't think really know about this company. Now the company Maimeri was founded in 1923 by an Italian impressionist painter named Gianni Maimeri, who was searching to satisfy his own burning desire for artistic excellence in paint, according to the bio online. He searched out to make these wonderful, light, fast, concentrated watercolors that outperformed their mass-produced counterparts, again, according to the blurb that I found online. Each color is made with binder, just like all other watercolors are, which is gum arabic, but they specifically note that they get their gum arabic from Kordofan, which is in the Sudan region of Africa. Okay, I had to check myself there. Yes, Sudan is in Africa. I was having a moment where I was doubting my geography knowledge. Anyway, so I will confirm if he was going for these transparent watercolors due to the specific binder that they use. I think they've done an excellent job. All of the colors that I have here are incredibly transparent. Which one? Oh, the cerulean blue, I think, was the most opaque color that I had, and you can see it's still really, really transparent. The only kind of exception to that is the mineral violet we'll take a look at in a minute as well. It highly, highly, highly granulates, and you can see some of that granulation over that black line, but otherwise very, very transparent colors. The line of watercolors has 72 colors to choose from, and they're available in 15 milliliter tubes. So MaimeriBlu watercolors are not commonly available here in the United States, but I believe that they are fairly popular in Europe, or at least in Italy, where they're produced. You can still get them here in the US from places like Dickblick online, and other than that, there's not too much information circling about these, and it's really hard to find reviews for them here on YouTube. However, there is one fantastic resource for these paints already, and that is on Jane Blundell's website. I'll put a link in the description below here so you can check it out. She was able to test out the full line of MaimeriBlu watercolors. Again, there are 72, I believe is what I said before, and she tested those out and has swatches on her website if you'd like to see the colors painted out. If you haven't already checked out Jane's website, I highly recommend it. She has a wealth of information to share with us all, including the swatch cards. So today we're going to be taking a look at the MaimeriBlu in comparison to some of my other watercolors, and you get a bit of a treat. We're going old school where I've taken some colors to compare these out of my binder. Usually it's easier for me to do it inside my binder. However, I have been lucky enough to be getting these samples from everyone from the Mission Gold and the American Journey and the MaimeriBlus, and I have a ton of swatches that I need to put into my binder, so I figured it would be easier for me to just take these out to the side so we can compare them and have it be nice and easy for you to see everything. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've got mostly natural light here, so I hope that this is a good reflection for you on what the colors actually are. Again, colors are going to vary based on your monitor settings and just the quality at which a camcorder is able to record these various colors. So first up is Primary Yellow, and that's PY97, which is also Hansa Yellow Medium, or in American Journey they call theirs the Cutesy Bumblebee Yellow. Now, I would say that the MaimeriBlu is very comparable to Daniel Smith. They're pretty much the same value and hue. The Bumblebee Yellow is a lot more intense than either of the other two. It's a much darker, warmer version of this color. All of them have about the same transparency, other than the Bumblebee is a tiny bit more opaque just because there's a heavier pigment load, but MaimeriBlu definitely stands up to the Daniel Smith. Next up we have Indian Yellow, and I'm not sure that I would call this Indian yellow. At least it's not what I'm familiar as Indian yellow. Here is Rembrandt's version, which is very clearly a more yellow version made from 2 different pigments. But then I also have some other samples for you to compare it to. I have the Daniel Smith's New Gamboge and also the Hansa Yellow Deep, so that you can kind of compare these. I think that it's probably closest to Hansa Yellow Deep in terms of tone, but it is a dual mixed pigment. It's not quite matching some of our other values that would be closer to what I think I have seen referred to as an Indian yellow. This is kind of like across the board for all of their colors. I feel like some of them are very flat, and I don't know if that's a bad thing or not. They are very, very even. So I know, like, when I first started off with watercolors, I liked colors to be really, really flat and even, and now I have a tendency to like things a little bit more varied and interesting. But you're gonna see later when we look at our blues especially, like, there isn't a lot of granulation in them. So if you're looking for a pigment that is super, super smooth and consistent, that does not have a lot of granulation, I think that these are an excellent option. All right, let's go ahead and we're gonna take a look at, I think this is Tiziano red. It is PR209, and this is a really funny color because I did not have this in my collection at all. And then I got the Mission Gold version from Catherine, and then I had the American Journey version from Victor, and then now the MaimeriBlu from Victor as well. So I've got 3 versions of this pigment for us to take a look at. Sorry that the American Journey one doesn't have that extra stripe there. I hadn't gotten around to it yet. All of these are made from the same pigment. It's Coral Red, I think, is the standard name for this pigment. And I think that MaimeriBlu's version is the least pigmented of them. American Journey definitely has more concentration, but this one glazes really nicely. So if you see, like, the second layer of MaimeriBlu is about the same as the first version of American Journey. And if you've watched my other 2 reviews of both of these when I was comparing Mission Gold in the first one and then comparing Mission Gold to American Journey, I'm not a fan of Mission Gold's version because it just has this weird texture to it. But again, like I talked about before, MaimeriBlu, you do not have to worry about that because there's very little texture in their paint. Next up, we're going to take a look at Primary Red Magenta. This is PV19. I will go ahead and put a link up here for my quinacridone rose color spotlight so you can see a wide range of these colors. I just pulled a couple for us to look at today, including Mission Gold version, the Daniel Smith version, and the Permanent Rose. Now remember that this pigment can come in many different varieties, from a red tone to a pink tone to a purpley violet tone. And I've pulled kind of a range here. I guess they're all kind of in the rosy red category. There's none of the really purpley ones here. And I think it holds up to the other ones pretty well. Formerly, before I got another selection of paints from Ophelia to try out for Daniel Smith, I hadn't had the Daniel Smith version yet to try out. Previously, my favorite was the Mission Gold, and then surprise, surprise, Daniel Smith comes along and I absolutely adore their version. I think it's really, really beautiful. It glazes a lot cleaner than the Mission Gold variety does, and this is my favorite version so far. It's a little bit more on the tiny bit more magenta side rather than pink than this one. This one is more pinkish red. This one is more of a pinky violet. But they're pretty comparable. It's probably pretty similar to this American Journey one again as well. Yeah, if we put those next to each other, they're pretty darn similar. So, alright, then we've got Mineral Violet. Now, this is PV16. It is a heavily granulating pigment, and just incredibly so. It does glaze fairly well, and it is, you can see over the opacity line, like we talked about before, that there is some residual paint across there. I don't have anything else like this that I can compare it to, but I do have Schmincke's Quinacridone Purple, which was the closest I could come in hue, which is PB55. If you have this lying around or if you've seen samples of that, you can kind of compare the two. This version is more pink than the Schmincke version. This is a very, very cool violet. And obviously this one is highly granular, unlike almost any of their other paints. We have a couple of the earth tones that are granulating, but very unique color. Alright, so next up we have our blues, and they, all across the board, the MaimeriBlus are pretty flat, at least the selection that I have. They're not granulating, like we're going to look at cerulean blue in a minute, and I expect that color to granulate a lot more than it is in this version, but I think I need to work with them a lot more before I can form an opinion. I did paint a whole painting with these MaimeriBlus for practice, and I was going to include it in this video, but my line art was atrocious in it, and it has nothing to do with the paints themselves. It was just not something I felt like I wanted to share with the world. So I'll put a picture maybe here of a close-up so you can see the quality of the paint in that painting, but perhaps not some of my terrible, terrible downfalls. Anyway, so I didn't love painting with these blues, but again, I've only done the one painting in the swatches and comparing, so I'll give it some more time to kind of sink in. I only have one other true cobalt for you, and that's the one I just reviewed in my Mission Gold. And I will say that I think the MaimeriBlu is actually more pigmented in this case, which is rare because Mission Gold is a pretty heavily pigmented line of paint. I like the glazing better on the MaimeriBlu, but there is some more texture in the Mission Gold version. And then just for some other comparisons, since I only have the one here, it is next to Ultramarine. The Ultramarine is certainly darker in value, and it also is a warmer color than the cobalt blue, but I know people kind of use either or with these pigments a lot of times, so I thought I'd include that for you. And then I have one other PB28, which is a completely different color. This is a pigment that can vary a lot from blue to green, so this is the Cobalt Teal from M. Graham, and I just wanted to throw that in there for you so you could see the different versions of this pigment. Alright, then we have Cerulean Blue to look at. This, again, doesn't granulate very much at all. It's a nice, flat, even tone. This was the most opaque wet, but when it dried, you can barely tell. I've got a couple versions of this for you to look at. We've got American Journey Cerulean Blue Genuine. Whoops, let me make sure this is on the camera for you. You can see that MaimeriBlu's version is definitely darker. Almost... where'd it go? There we go. Not quite as dark, there we go, as the Cobalt, but it's certainly pretty similar in hue. I've got the Lucas Cerulean, which is a bit more yellowish green, I guess, in this one. It is closer than the American Journey version. And then I finally have Turner's Cerulean, which is my least favorite of this grouping of paints. It's a bit streaky and a bit heavier than the other versions. Alright, then we've got something that I was actually really excited to see in the set, and it's PB18, which is not a common color in watercolor, but it is beautiful. I do remember way back when I got Phthalo Turquoise in Daniel Smith's version. It's a dual pigment of Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green. It would be easy to mix, but it's just beautiful. I have it on my palette anyway. And I remember someone commented on it that, like, why would you call this Phthalo Turquoise or something along those lines, because there was another turquoise with the same name, turquoise. But anyway, side story aside, this is a beautiful, beautiful version of this color, and I have that Daniel Smith version I was talking about to compare it to for you. Here is the Daniel Smith version. It's a bit more on the green side, and this is more on the blue side, but they're pretty comparable. I actually probably prefer the MaimeriBlu version. I think it's really beautiful, and it's a single pigment, so there's that. I've also got the Mission Gold Peacock Blue for you to check out. This is a similar mixture. It's, again, phthalo blue and phthalo green, but this is the yellow shade of phthalo green. This is the blue shade of phthalo green. And finally, I've got Daniel Smith's Ultramarine Turquoise, which is a bit of a departure from these other colors, but I wanted to include it anyway in case that is what you have on your palette to compare it to. Alright, so I do have the raw sienna here, and I noticed when I was painting with it that it has a very weak tinting strength. It's a little hard to get pigment up out of the pan of paint compared to the other colors. The other colors, by the way, all lift beautifully out of the palette. There's no issues with that. And then when I checked Jane's website as well to see her color chart, she also said that this one was a little lackluster for her. First off, I'm going to show you the yellow ochre actually from Daniel Smith because I think it's the closest color even though it's a different pigment. You can see here that it's actually more yellow than the yellow ochre. And then if we bring in the raw sienna from Daniel Smith, we get to a totally different color that's a much darker brown. So if we compare these two raw siennas next to each other made from the same pigment, they're very, very different from each other. This is more transparent, I'll give them that for sure, but the glazing wasn't super impressive. Like, there isn't a huge color difference here. I mean, there isn't one on the Daniel Smith version either, but yeah, it's just kind of, it's a nice color. It's just not typically what I would think of as raw sienna. Oh, that is for the next one. Oops. Alright, so let's go ahead and put those aside. We can get out our burnt umber sample, and then this one is the one that wanted to come join us a little bit early there. Here's Daniel Smith's version, and here is M. Graham's version. This is definitely the coolest version of the group. I have been using Daniel Smith's burnt umber since day one, basically, of whenever I bought my professional quality paints. And this is kind of like where my heart leans towards. This is a beautiful color too, but I don't think it's as versatile since it's a lot lighter and closer to burnt sienna. Whereas I feel like the MaimeriBlu's version is almost like a dark raw umber. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick to show you. Okay, it's definitely not as cool as the raw umber, but I think it falls pretty well in between these two. And the final color I have to show you is Indigo. I do have Daniel Smith's Indigo, has the same name, but it's a different color and a different composition. MaimeriBlu's Indigo is very green. It's made from Prussian blue and PBK7, so I guess the green undertones is coming from the Prussian blue, but it's definitely not like that rich, deep, dark color that I think of Indigo being. And I have a couple other samples to compare them to. Here is Jane Davenport's ink, which is made from PB27 and PBK9, which is similar to this composition, except there's also a red added to it. And then finally, I think one of the closer colors I have is American Journey's Junebug, which is also made from Prussian blue and phthalo green blue shade. So this is definitely more vibrant color, but I think it's more close in hue than either of these other two. Alright everyone, so I have a little piece of coal press arches here for us to look at, and I wanted to show you a couple of different things about this paint that I've noticed so far in my painting. I'm going to go ahead and drop down some burnt umber here as if I were doing like a tree trunk, and I dropped indigo into this color, and I was really surprised that I did not get a dark brown. I instead got a green. I was using it like I would, you know, kind of shadow an area, and it turned very green instead of a neutral black or a dark brown. Let me see if you can see that a little bit better. So I'm not sure if this indigo would fit the needs of, I'm not sure how it's perceived in Europe, but in America, indigo is kind of like a dark bluish color that neutralizes really, really well with burnt umber, so this is definitely different if you are looking for a traditional indigo. Like I've heard it referred to at least, this is not quite the same. I'll go ahead and show you some of this mineral violet. I know a lot of people on my Instagram really liked this color and wanted to see a little bit more of it. Got phantom wind closing doors in other rooms here. and that's going to take a minute to dry so that you can see that texture. If I put a more concentrated version of it next to it, you'll see that the pigments, this works for any granulating pigment pretty much, it'll granulate a lot less in its mass tone because you're not putting as much water between it and the binder. But when you add more water, it's going to separate more from the binder. All right. I was really impressed with the range of oranges in particular that these colors make. So here is that Indian yellow, I guess is what they call it. I'm going to take the slightly warmer red, although neither of these reds are particularly warm. They're both on the cool side. When we blend these two together, it makes this really beautiful fiery orange in the middle. There we go. And we can get some really pretty greens if we take our cool yellow and mix in our turquoise. Nice bright, vibrant green. We could probably get a much more muted green if we used our cobalt or cerulean. Let's go ahead and take that cerulean, see what we get. I think it might be hard to tell on the camera. Maybe I'll add a little bit more turquoise to this one so you can see the difference in the hue. This is a much more vibrant version on top, and this one is a bit flatter and duller, which can be good for, you know, landscapes and the like. It's still a very light green. It's not deep dark green. And then finally we'll mix up a little purple here. So I'm using the warm red. Gosh, I did that twice now. This is a cool red. We're mixing a purple, which will be a warm purple. I'm using the cobalt blue, and the two are going to make a really, really vibrant, bright purple. Definitely not dark. All of these colors, because they're so transparent, I think the white really shines through on the back of the paper, and you get these really crisp colors. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to show you, that if you take that indigo that is slightly on the green side and add a hint of our red to it, it does even out and you get a nice even black color. So that is a useful tip, that if you did already have this color and you're not sure why you're getting greens, or any other color for that matter, if you're having that issue, just add its opposite, as we talked about in our color mixing series. I can go ahead and put a link up here for you if you missed that and would like a link to the playlist where all those videos can be found. I hope that this was helpful. I definitely need some more time. Even though I did that entire painting, I still need some more time to work with them and to form some opinions about them. So let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a part 2 of this video for a demonstration, and if you use them yourself, and I'd love to hear your comments about them. I would have re-recorded some footage for you this week, but I wanted to make sure that I have enough time to record our new mini-series. Well, I think it's going to be more of a series now. I've gotten past 8 episodes, so I don't know if I can call it mini anymore. But our new series of Endangered Species Paint With Me that starts on Friday, I just want to make sure that I have enough time this week to record all of that footage for you. So I'm really excited about that series. I hope that you are looking forward to it as well. Let me know again in the comments below if you want to see more of the MaimeriBlu review, and I will see you next time. Happy painting!